Hi, Bob. Thank you for having me again.
Pleasure to have you here. So, where might someone begin when they think about getting their financial house in order for this year?
It's probably a really common question for people right now because the new year starts. Everyone wants to get everything in order. And what I like to do, there's really three things I like to look at, but the first one is knowing your tax situation. And so what I mean by that is knowing what happened last year in 2021 as well as what might happen this year and the potential. The reason why last year is important is the starter is if you're going to owe money when you go to file taxes, do you have that money saved in your checking account or savings account? And really what this is for me personally, it's I know how much I spend every single month. And if there's an unexpected bill that I didn't account for, it stresses me out for until I get back on track, right? And and so it's preparing for that to try to mitigate as much stress as possible. The second piece and important piece of what happened last year is you can still contribute to certain accounts all the way up until April. And so, depending on where your income was at, you might be able to make a Roth IRA contribution that you weren't making throughout the year. But a lot of people, you can contribute up to $6,000. If depending on your age, you might be able to contribute seven. And those are the those are the things you want to look for based off last year's income. Moving forward, what I like to think about, like going into 2022, is ask yourself what tax bracket are you going to be in this year? So then you can try to plan for those contributions ahead of time. And what I like to look at is okay, if I'm depending on what tax bracket I'm in and your age, you might want to say, I'm going to contribute to my employer Roth 401k instead of the traditional I did last year. Or if you're in your peak earning years, you might switch from Roth account to traditional. It's mapping out kind of what your income might be. It's hard because people get raises, you might have bonuses, commissions, whatever it is, but you can generally get an idea on where you're going to be and how you can approach the next year.
What else do people need to think about in terms of getting their financial house in order?
The second thing I do, I think of this as all as like finance season. And so when I go to file taxes, my personal finances are on my mind. And one of the things I do every year is I go and I look at my portfolio and ask if I should rebalance it. And I always recommend and prefer a passive investment strategy. But even if you're completely, I'm not going to look at it, I'm set it and forget it type investor, you still have a target allocation in mind, usually. And so if you have, say, you have 60% in mind for US stocks, 20% developed international, and 20% emerging markets. Well, what happened last year was emerging markets didn't do as well as US stocks. And so if you come in this time of year, you go in and rebalance, what it allows you to do is, in theory, you're selling at a high and buying at a low because you're selling US stock that did well. Now you're buying emerging markets that didn't do as well, and you're back to your target allocation. This is one of those things that you get varied answers on how often you should rebalance. I like to do it once a year. It's simple. You're doing taxes right now. Open everything up, look where you're at. The most I've seen people recommend is four. And so if you want to rebalance more, that's typically it's 1 time to 4 times per year. I like the set it and forget it approach. And it's simple too. It's easier to just monitor. And so you do it once a year. This is a good time to do it.
Right. What else should people be thinking about doing?
The last thing that I think is important to look at is knowing what your goals are. And everything right now is goal oriented, but really sit down and create a realistic plan. We all want to be millionaires. It'd be great if you say, I want to make $1 million this year. Well, that's not really realistic for most of us. So break down what your priorities are. If you don't have an emergency fund yet, that should probably be your top priority. Build that up. But then there's other things like how much should you be contributing to your retirement accounts? Do you want to look at opening a brokerage account, just a taxable account if you don't have one? And really what those are great for is those people that you don't want all your money going into retirement because you're younger. You don't want to wait till you're 55 to touch it, right? And so you can still invest money that you can have in your 30s and 40s if you're starting out in your 20s. by investing in this brokerage account. Or there's the other side of people want to get into real estate investing. And really the biggest hurdle for people is, you hear it all the time, is it's buying that first property. And so setting up the metrics that you want, building the savings for that down payment, and then going after it. And what I just did, sat down with my wife and we ask all these questions. And so we're looking at why I sat down and asked these questions is we're very frugal, but we realized the past year we were missing out on some things due to being too frugal. And so what we did is we looked at our retirement contributions, said, okay, we can increase this 1% or 2%, depending on, ask yourself, where are you at? And then I set up a savings target for us that I like to do it per paycheck, but you can also do it per month, per quarter, whatever you prefer. I do it per paycheck and say, I want to send X amount of dollars to the brokerage account. And so now you hear it, you're paying yourself first. And so now that we have those savings in place, then anything extra. And so if we happen to get a raise, if there's a bonus here or there, anything extra, we can go enjoy. And so it's trying to create that balance of, yes, you want to have that highest savings target because you know the value of investing and the compound interest, but you also, things get hard and you work hard. My wife works a lot of overtime. At some point you have to enjoy it. And so you don't want to just be constantly working and realize we're just building up a savings account for what? Like you still have to enjoy it. And so now we built that in. I think it's going to be a lot better. We'll be able to go on a few small vacations here or there, buy some things we wouldn't have bought because now we know we're paying ourselves first.
Well, the good thing about all these recommendations, Beau, is they're easy for anyone to do. They're not out of the realm of possibility for anyone. Knowing your tax situation, rebalancing your portfolio, setting a savings goal, all easy tasks, at least on paper.
Yeah, it's all easy, and it really comes down to discipline and knowing yourself and what works for yourself. And so these things work for me and my wife, works for a lot of people as well. Just having that plan in place, even if you miss the target, you still tried. And so it's better than doing nothing at all.